All right, guys, tonight I'm going to be looking at the SMSL VMV A1 Class A amplifier. Sent to me by APOS. They're about the only videos I do anymore, or at least for now. I got some other stuff planned for the future, possibly this summer. I always say that I don't get paid to do anything for them. They just send me the stuff. I get to try it out for a little bit and talk about it. And when I'm done, everything's got to go back. I don't get to keep anything. I don't get paid. I'm allowed to say whatever I want. The reason I do these with or for APOS is just because I'm a big fan of their website. It's nice to finally have another good, well-rounded website to buy this type of audio gear other than eBay and Amazon. I mean, there are a few other sites out there, but APOS outside the mainstream, those big websites, is probably my favorite one to go to. And they do also, I'm going to say, offer free shipping, price match guarantee, APOS 1 year transferable warranty, and a 45-day return policy. So if you're unsure, you can buy something, try it out for a little bit, listen to it for a few weeks, and if it's just not your thing, pack it back up and send it back. Okay, get back to the topic at hand here, the SMSL VMV A1. VMV, I guess, is kind of like a high-end variant of SMSL, kind of like the Cadillac to Chevrolet, I guess, sort of something like that, or Lexus to Toyota. It's kind of their premium line, I suppose, which makes sense. This thing comes in at $660. So it's not cheap, but I guess it just depends on what you're used to spending and what your budget is, what's expensive, what's not. So it's hard to say. Some people would consider that not a big deal. I guess what's kind of special about it is it's Class A, but yet it's so small. I mean, here's it's not very big. Typical Class A amplifiers can be full size and bulky, and usually rather large, or full size, we'll say average size, and then yet they don't put out a ton of power. This is probably the smallest Class A amplifier I've seen. I've not seen a ton, but I've been around the run of the mill of them. So I think they're kind of proud that they've made a very compact little Class A amplifier that puts out a pretty decent amount of power for Class A. And before we look around, I'm going to run through just the basic specs on it first, going over just some of their own marketing literature, as I always do, because it's their literature. I'm sure this is what most people are going to read. This is what they want most people to know. Beginning with the massive analog power. What a lot of people like about Class A is it's usually completely analog. There's no digital involved within the amplifier. Massive analog power, boasting massive power, nominal distortion, and a minimalistic feature set. The VMV A1 is a fire hose of analog power. How powerful, you say? Or might wonder. 15 watts times 2 into 4 ohms, or enough to warrant an on-screen temperature display. We'll get to that. 15 watts times 2 into 4 ohms is pretty good. It's not a ton of power, but it's quite a bit of power for a Class A. And then moving in on their Class A end of it, the SMSL VMV A1 is a Class A amplifier, as mentioned, using simple circuits to draw the same amount of current and consume the same amount of energy, whether receiving a signal or not, which is typical of Class A. This is the most straightforward of amplifier types. Yes, it is. It doesn't do anything. It's just on. It takes a signal and amplifies it. It's super basic. It isn't subject to electromagnetic interference caused by digital components, so its total harmonic distortion and signal-to-noise ratio are exceptionally low. And when we get down to the specs, we'll read them off. They are very low, but there's plenty of digital amplifiers or amplifiers that have digital components in them that also still have very low THD. Perfect for bookshelf speakers and headphones, of course. And yes, I say headphones, you'll see in a minute. Going down the rest of the specs, the FET Class A circuit, 15 watts times 2. In the 4 ohms, we went over that. Temperature display has a stabilized power supply, and a Porcupine power transformer. I believe it's just toroidal. Looked like. I haven't opened it up. We'll just go over the meat and potatoes of the specs. Signal to noise ratio of 110 dB, very good. Channel separation 105 dB, very good. Really anything beyond 70 or 80 dBs, very good. Output power, again, that 15 times 2 into 4 ohms. So you get 10 times 2 into 8 ohms. And then for the surprise round back, you get 2 watts times 2 into 32 ohms. Power consumption total is 30 watts. Standby power of 0.5 watts. Dimensions, not very big. 8.6, looks like 8.6 wide by 8 deep by 1.5 inch thick. You can, or 210 by 205 by 39, and 4.4 pounds. And then we'll go over what's included. You get this little bag with these basically noise isolation or vibration isolation toe spikes with the little discs, the divot in them to go underneath so it doesn't scratch up. As you can see here, as we get to going around the thing here, you can see it has these little toe spikes you can put on it. They're basically vibration isolation, toe spike, etc., etc. And yeah, you get they do give you the little discs to put below them so it doesn't scratch up whatever you set it on top of. I have it configured. You get 6 of them. You get 4 that are this length, and then you get 2 extra long ones for the front, so you can kind of have it so it tilts the front up, or you can do 4 of the same ones, and they just thread in like any other toe spike. Whether they actually do anything or not, I don't know. Probably not really. But yeah, they look nice. It gives it a very nice audiophile touch. It seems like a pain in the butt, but I guess once you get it situated and put down, you get the little discs underneath all 4 feet, and they got little kind of like a grippy silicone on the back, so once you set them where they're going to be, they kind of stay pretty good. And typically people aren't picking up and moving their amplifiers around all the time anyway, so kind of when you get it where it's going to be, you're kind of done. So I mean, if you didn't want to use the toe spikes, you could just not put them on and put some rubber grommets on the bottom. And then this little guy, I didn't realize what he was for at first. It's just a little piece of random plastic. And then getting to the remote, you get this really nice cast aluminum remote. Very nice. Is like most people, the gloss front here is not necessary. It's just a super fingerprint magnet. Buttons are super nice. Rubber, good click. Good feel to them. Super simple. Power. I believe this is mode or function, mute, volume up, down, and then I mean your basic run-of-the-mill function button set here. Super simple. Fits in the hand well. It's got really good weight to it. Excellent. Love this remote. Then it threw me off because in the manual they show that this remote supposedly takes 2 AAAs. And I'm like, okay, that's not possible. Obviously, this is a battery door. I just use my fingernails like this, and you can turn it and get it out. But this is what this is included for, and it just makes it so you can get this battery door off. And it's all machined very well, very nice. And it does not take 2 AAA batteries. It takes a CR2032. I just happen to have some extra button batteries around. I tried out a few. I think I tried a 2025. It didn't work. And then the 2032 did work. And then you can see the negatives there for the negative side that goes down. I just set it in. It fits perfectly inside there, and you just flip it over. And yeah, never seen one like that. Not a huge fan of button batteries, but the little amount of power this remote needs is probably not a big deal. It'll probably still last for quite a while. But yeah, very nice SMSL remote there, or VMV, whatever. So it's good to see a nice, I mean, for being a premium model, having a premium price, I'm glad they give you a premium remote. You get the VMV user manual. There's not much to figuring out this thing. It's pretty simple. You'll see when we get to the menu. Going over the actual amplifier itself, obviously front screen. You have two buttons here. We'll get to volume. It's actually a multi-function knob volume switch, so you get to do a bunch of stuff there. No ventilation. It's all one solid. Very well made. Like I said, this thing weighs 4.5 pounds, which is quite a bit. Makes it feel like quite a chunky little unit. Looks like the whole base plate here screws on, so it sounds like that. There we go. It's solid. Trust me, it feels good. And then on the back, your analog, right, left, RCA, unbalanced, whatever input. Did not expect this. A headphone, 1/4-inch headphone jack going out, and that's where they talked about that 2 watts and times 2 into 32 ohms. So most people are probably not going to be hooking 32 ohm headphones to these, but I tried all the way up to with the cost KPH30s are 60 ohm, I think. And then the Sennheiser, I'm gonna brain fart, 660s are 300 ohm, I think. Either way, it had plenty of power up to 300 ohms. I don't know about 600. I don't have any 600 ohm headphones. But for the most part, you want to get the Class A sound that this gives out on headphones. It has a headphone jack, which is really nice. And then some, we'll call them slim banana plugs here. Or not banana plugs, binding posts. Yes, even though they are kind of smaller, even a big full-size banana plug like this will take a full-size banana plug. They don't look like it because they're small, but they are deeper than they look. And then we'll get back to these in a sec. And then you got your AC input here fused, and then your master on-off, which is nice to have. So you can leave it like this and then leave it in your standby, obviously most of the time. But if you're going on vacation or you're a little more OCD, you can always flip that off and kill it completely. Again, the high-res audio stickers, I don't get why I get why they put it on everything because there's money involved. I believe it was something developed by JAP or the Japanese Audio, or JAC, something like, or JAS maybe, Japanese Audio Society. And it's just a licensing thing. It's something people can slap on audio gear to make it look more, I don't know, high-end or whatever than it is. But the high-res audio standard that goes with that sticker just means the audio device has to reproduce from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, which is pretty standard. So it's nothing super special. It doesn't necessarily mean it's 24-bit, 192, or any of that, or it's a pretty basic standard with a kind of a fancy sticker. Let's see. Let's go over there's only 2 things, 3 things I didn't like about this. It's an absolutely really nice little amplifier. Whether it's $660, that'll have to be up to you. I can show you 2 things I didn't like. I didn't have many cons about this thing at all. The sound quality is great. I guess we'll just get right into the sound quality off bat. There's not really a ton to say. It's, to me, I don't have a ton of experience with Class A, but it did seem to fall into that Class A sound-ish. I would say that upper end still carried plenty of clarity and detail you know, while still having, I don't know, character. It wasn't like sterile and just clinically accurate, just very nice and lively and accurate in the top end, and then the bottom end, somewhere in the lower mids and down, it becomes a bit warmer and softer. The bass is a little less accurate, but I guess in a pleasant way, you know, a Class A way. Yeah, so I just go with more of a warm, smooth low end with a still, you know, lively, nice, accurate top end, whatever. It sounds great. I'll give it that way. But it doesn't, I mean, you can, I would say, as far as like the top end, it almost sounds the same as like a lot of the Class D amps. As far as the highs are good, it's where I notice the difference is the mids, like the middle of the mids and down, are just a little bit softer and warmer, that sort of subjective stuff. Anyway, moving on back to the two things I can show you right now. This knob right here, which we'll use when we plug in, you can see, let me get right up in there. It's never malfunctioned. I've never had an issue. It's always done what it's supposed to, but this knob is just, it's plastic. It looks metal, but I'm pretty sure it's, I mean, it could be machined aluminum, but very thin. But the whole knob unit, because it's a multi-function, I mean, it's just the middle is a button, but the outside is a knob, yeah. I don't like that, but I can't complain too much because every click, because it's a, what do they call that? Every rotation, it has a I don't know, a click. I don't know. It's not a smooth knob. It's a clicky knob. Always turns one segment of the volume every time. And then when you turn it real fast, it keeps right up. I can't really complain. It does what it's supposed to, even the function button in the middle, and then going through stuff with this, it's worked 100%. I just don't like that it's jiggly. And then I guess it's not really a con. I had these little mini banana plugs on a high-end device. Sometimes the high-end audiophile world contradicts itself, because this is high-end, this is audiophile, it's kind of expensive, and then it's got the same banana plugs, or binding posts, as this little $70 amplifier. Never mind the brand, that's not important, because almost all these little Chinese amplifiers all use these binding posts. It's not a big deal. I have no problem with them really, but it's one of those things. Is like, this is so high end. They brag about all these specs. They brag about all the high end internal components. They got these gold-plated RCA, heavy-duty, you know, high-quality RCA plugs, but then they don't feel the need to use something like more like this. It's a nice, big, chunky, high-end, you know, audiophile, quote-unquote, binding posts. You know, I don't know. Apparently, I guess, nice big binding posts like this that you normally find on audiophile equipment just isn't necessary. Apparently, this is enough. And the thing about SMSL, a lot of these Chinese brands, they do the measurements, they do the testing, and if they felt these were going to be an issue, they probably wouldn't have used them. So, are these fine? Or do you need these big honking audiophile binding posts to get good sound out of your amplifier or into your speakers? SMSL doesn't seem to think so. And they're probably right. Anyway, I guess that's not really a con. It's just more of a contradictory thing. And I'm not blaming SMSL. I'm going to give them a benefit of the doubt here and say they probably know what they're doing. They do the measurements. They put out the charts. You know, they put out the measurements to back up their specs. But anyway, let's plug it in. We'll go through the menu, and then probably the last thing I'm going to do, as far as the Class A's, I got a kilowatt here. We're going to plug it in and see if it just is sucking up full power the whole time. Whether it's at zero volume or max volume, if it's consuming 30 watts or whatever it said. So let's get it plugged in here. Got a nice fat, juicy 10 gauge audiophile power cord here. This is what you got to have to get the proper sound quality out of these sorts of things. Never mind the drop cord here and the adapter. What happens before this cord, whether it be a power strip or a conditioner or what's in your wall, does not matter. This cord will make everything sound better. What happens before the cord doesn't matter at all. Just having this last 2 feet here of cord, night and day difference. Everything sounds 10 times better. All right, let's power it on. Even the display on the front of this thing is like just so much crisper with that cord. We'll go into the menu here. This is what you get when you first start up, and as you can see, here's that temperature readout. It's in Celsius, which I guess for me doesn't matter. I do a lot of custom PC building and testing and overclocking, and everything's done in Celsius, so I'm already kind of used to it. You'll see that slowly rise in time. After about an hour and a half of nonstop use at pretty loud, I think it goes to 60, and I think it at around 40 or 45. My listening area is in my basement. It's cooler. It's like 65 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius down here. Well, let me look. I got my conversion here. Well, I'd say it's probably right around 20 Celsius down here, I suppose. After about an hour and a half of continuous use at higher power or higher volume, it would get up to about 45 Celsius, and then the top would just be nice and warm. It wasn't hot. It wouldn't hurt you. It wouldn't hurt anything sitting on it. It was just nice and warm. Now, if it was in a room that's already 75 or 80 degrees, we'll say 30 degrees Celsius, it's probably going to get a lot hotter. So I guess if you're one of those people, take caution, I guess. Keep an eye on it. But it is nice to give you that, especially people like me. I like to keep an eye on things like temperature and stuff of my electronics. And then this red here in the top and bottom is not changeable. It is what it is. Obviously it's in audio or speaker mode right now, and then this button I believe is your function or mode button. Push that, it clicks over to headphones. You cannot do both at the same time. You'll hear a relay switch over from one to the other. Which is nice. Got some good quality little relays in there. And then this one down here is your mute, which also has a wonderful little relay sound if you like that sort of thing. And you'll see the mute turns red. And then it turns back to green, says VOL for volume. And then the volume, like as I said, this loose, shabby knob, it does go with every click. I'll give it that. Maybe I'm lucky. Maybe other people's had issues with it. I guess I haven't really heard anyone complaining about it. It doesn't have for something like this, I think a lot of people want that nice, just silky, smooth, heavy metal knob that just feels great, kind of like the vintage audio stuff. Unfortunately, you don't get that with this, but it's not a big deal. Unless you're using this at your desk, most people I think are probably just going to use the remote, and you won't have to touch that knob anyway. The remote works super responsive, really well. I guess, what's that say? Oh, this just the circle, the arrow is your gain, high-low gain for your input. And then obviously the FN is your function, speakers to headphone, high-low gain, back, and then mute. And then you can go into the menu. You can do it by pressing this. And then, like any other of these devices, you can use the knob to go through, select what you want, high, low gain. As far as the headphones, The HP, I must just stand for, I don't know if it stands for headphone gain, or it wouldn't be high pass gain. I don't know. It's just your gain for your input. Um, Even on high gain, it's got plenty of power for, like I said, almost any headphone, unless you got a few of the ones out there that just really suck up a lot of power. You also get a brightness, which is nice, I guess. If you have a dim room, you don't want this thing bugging you at night, you can turn that down. And then your version down here is just your firmware version or whatever it's running on. Hardware version 1.0, software version 1.0. And then you can just hit either one of these buttons to go back to your menu. Now, the other thing my other con with it was, it sounds really good. It sounds great until you get to, out of 60s the max, 70s the max. And I noticed, I tried it with some more efficient speakers that I think they're right around 87 dB sensitivity. And this gets, for most people, this would get plenty loud. And 87 is not even super sensitive. There's a lot of other speakers out there that are going to be, 89, 90 plus. And this is going to have plenty of power for those. I had some other speakers I tried on it that I think are more around 84 or 85. And then that, 10 or 15 watts really struggles to, it still gets pretty loud, but it may be lacking for some people. So I think most people that are looking at Class A are going to already be aware of these things anyway. So, but I did notice with either set of speakers, and my listening area is not huge, but it's decent size, and I like to listen loudly. It's typically why I don't have Class A, because I don't have super efficient speakers, and I like things super loud. But anyway, getting upwards above 55, it seemed like once it started to hit 55 and on, going a little louder, I could start to detect some distortion, just not just in the low end, but just kind of across everything. And then just the higher you got, 60, it became very noticeable, and then 65, it's just like, it's just not even listenable. And then 70, it's just unusable. Whether this is a con or not, for something this price, I would honestly expect it to perform nearly flawlessly all the way to the top. And I tried it with, 3 different sets of speakers. It didn't seem to matter. Once you start getting to this upper limit, it just just wanted to kind of start to distort. Maybe it's my unit. If somebody else has got one of these and it goes to 70 perfectly clean, I don't know. But yeah, I noticed it was kind of strange that once you start to really push on it, and the temperature wasn't blowing through the roof either. It was right around 45, I think 45, 46. Wasn't overheating or anything. It seemed like after a certain level, that's just all it had. So, but for most people, with a fairly efficient speaker, you're probably not going to really go over 45 or 50. That's going to be quite loud, and be more than enough for most people. So, if you're not trying to blow the socks off your speakers, you're probably never going to run into that issue with this anyway. So, again, it's just one of those things. It depends who you are, and maybe it's just my unit. I don't know. But yeah, after going through the menu, all that's done. It's a very simple menu. Like they said, there's not a whole lot going on in this thing. I'm going to power it off, and I'm going to plug it into the kilowatt. Well, I guess I won't be doing a test or demonstration with my little kilowatt here. I was going to run the amplifier through this and see if it consumes the same amount of power out of the wall, whether it's sitting here idle, or as you start turning the volume up, if it starts to consume more and more power, kind of demonstrate the Class A amplification. But even though I tested this right before I started, now my kilowatt here, it works. Power still goes through it, but the display will not come on for some reason. I guess it just now decided to quit working. So I guess I won't be doing that. It's one of the main things I was looking forward to doing with this video, to kind of demonstrate that power consumption, but go figure. Anyway, if you like Class A amplification, Class A sound, all that, this would be something to consider. It's from what I can tell, just in my opinion, for what it's worth to you, It does have that Class A sound. It almost threw me off at first because having the really good specs, the 110 dB signal to noise and the extremely low crosstalk, really kind of cleans it up, uh, and almost throws you off. I don't think a lot of the typical Class A amplifiers, at least the ones I've experienced, have specs quite like that. So you get this uh, really low distortion, very clean sound, but yet if you listen for it, it's because of the low end and stuff, it's still got that Class A uh, warmth and smoothness. So it's kind of nice. It's like I guess, I don't know, modern Class A or anyway. Yeah, if you're looking for a very compact, small Class A amplifier, you like that Class A style, that Class A sound, I think this is something to definitely consider. And then getting that headphone jack on the back is just a complete bonus. You're getting a Class A stereo amplifier and Class A headphone amplifier all in one here. So, and then, there's always, APOS always has their 45-day return. You buy it, try it out. If it's just not your thing, no big deal. No questions asked. Send it back. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this. Any questions, whatever, put them in the comments below. I'll try to help you. And have a good night.